Okay, I just wanted to make something really quick. Um, so uh, some, uh, there's been some speculation on pricing on the new Steam machine, and I just want to say that I honestly don't. So people are like, oh, it might be like $1,000 or over $1,000. I honestly strongly believe that it's gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be. There's some. I have some factors to go over, but I don't think it's gonna be more than $600. The reason why I don't think it's going to be more than 600 is both is basically kind of like from interviews on the hardware and also the specs themselves. Um, because of the specs themselves entirely, um, and what they've said on certain specs that they've chosen. And one of the things that they said was why they chose a like anemic, like a slightly underpowered GPU, a little bit on the underpowered GPU, and especially with only 8 gigs of VRAM. The main reason why they said this was to help with affordability of the Steam machine. That was what they said, and so I really feel like they're trying to hit that $600, that 599 price point, given the hardware that the Steam machine has, and I do have something else in here, maybe 600 or maybe even less. I don't see it being significantly more than 600. I just don't see it. And we can just quickly go over the specs. That it has. So it has a Zen 4 6 core 12 core processor, which I think is okay. I think it's okay for most games. Um, I would have liked to see an 8 core 16 thread processor, but I think 6 cores of Zen 4 is okay. 16 gigs of system RAM, I think that's fine. What I don't think is fine is a 28 CU 8 gigabyte GPU. I don't think that's fine. I just don't think that's fine. One, I think it should have been at least a 32 CU, CU model, at least a 32 CU version, and then with with at least like bare minimum 12 gigabytes of VRAM. But I'm not sure if you can say you have a 32. You might not even be able to get 8 gigs. So say there's a 16 gig model, and then with a 6, I guess they might have to go with the 16 model. I don't know. But basically, I don't think 8 gigs is enough. And basically, this basically sets precedent that considering they said they want every game on Steam to be 4K, 60 like 60-ish FPS, like 50 to 60 FPS with some amount of upscaling. That basically tells me that they're going to have to be either making basically making harder restrictions for for when people submit games that they have to like abide by, like they have to have like a they have to have a Steam machine setting um, that has to be implemented by the developers, or Valve is going to have to be basically making custom profiles for this game, because there are certain games that literally either one don't run at all with when you try, if you try to launch them with 8 gigs of VRAM without a mod, or there are also games that also run terribly on 8 gigabytes of VRAM, even on the like lowest settings without a mod, or they run fine, but their texture art was just terribly done because they expected no one to use the 8 gigabyte like VRAM textures. Um, they assumed everyone was going to use like the high or better textures. So. And there are a decent amount of games. I mean, it's not a lot of games, but it's like maybe 10 games that are like this. I know, if I remember correctly, I'm pretty Stellar Blade is a game that if you use the medium textures versus like the high textures, the medium textures look terrible compared to the high textures. Um, um, I believe they did go back and fix this, but I know Last of Us Part One when it first came to PC, the textures for like the 8 GB GPUs looked terrible. Terrible. I'm pretty sure they did like re-art a lot of them and came out and actually updated it and made it better, like there are maybe like 5 to maybe 10 games that are like this where they're in that category of like, yeah, it'll run, it'll work fine, but like the textures weren't arted with the idea of someone only using 8 GB GPU. So it does sound like Valve is going to have to be doing a lot of optimization work for this themselves, and also maybe restricting, like basically putting a specifications and performance targets that like minimum performance targets that need to be hit like have to be hit for developers, and just enforce that, or they just get removed from Steam. I don't know. like like I don't know exactly what they're going to do here with that, because there are definitely games that will not run with 8 GB. Most games will. Like probably 95% of games will, but there's probably like 5% of games on Steam that will not run with 8 gigs, or it just won't be a good experience. Yeah, 512 GB, two terabytes. Yeah, that's fine. This I don't really care about. All that stuff is fine. Um, yeah. So yeah, Cyberpunk around that 50 to 60 FPS mark with FSR enabled. Um, so which is fine again, but that's Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk is a relatively reasonably optimized game at this point. It does use your hardware to the fullest for the most part. Yes, it can be a little bit CPU limited in certain scenarios, but it still will use, like it does do a pretty good job of using the majority of your CPU resources. So I understand why they would like test that game. Um, I get it, but in my opinion, it's like you didn't show the game, but you didn't show the system running games that have issues that are known to have issues, like most Unreal Engine 5 games, which a lot of newer games are on. So again, I'm worried about this, but basically what they've stated, because they want is to get this to run every Steam game at 4K 60 with some upscaling, like probably like 50 to 60 range. Um, every game on Steam, and that basically tells me that they're gonna you basically probably have to do both, of basically saying these are the minimum hardware specs that they have to hit. They have to hit these like performance numbers, and a good experience with that 8 GB GPU, and then also be optimizing these games themselves. Basically taking a bunch of Steam games and doing and then doing stuff in the background to optimize them, like Steam and stuff to optimize themselves, right? So it's basically probably be twofold, um, which this could be a good thing. This could force developers to like actually keep in mind the lowest denominator like PC to keep for it literally forces them to like keep in mind a very conservative PC build. So this actually could be a good thing. We could actually get more like better PC ports from this being enforced. Um, and then there is, what else is there? Yeah, people were going on and on about whether or not there was going to be a Half-Life 3. I'm like, yeah, it's rumored, but Half-Life 3 has been rumored for 20 years, 20 years, 21 years, something like that. I don't know. I don't put like any stock in any Half-Life 3 rumors, right? I just don't put any stock in it. Um, I mean, could it be? Could there be work another Half-Life game? Could it be Half-Life 3? And it could be could it potentially launch with the Steam machine? Maybe, but again, just so you know, it's gonna be a PC game, so it's not like you're gonna need a Steam machine to play the game, right? Right? Like you'll be able to play the game on you'll be able to play the game on any like any like either Windows or anything that can run Steam. Basically, you'll be able to play the uh, not run Steam. I meant if you have a gaming computer with Windows or Steam OS or Linux or whatever, you'll be able to purchase the game separately from that and just play the game, right? So don't think that this is you have to don't get the wrong idea that maybe some people are getting that you need to buy it. Like again, if this new Valve game, say it's Half-Life 3 or something like that, I mean, it might be Half-Life 3, it might be Portal 3, or it might be a new IP entirely. I don't know. Again, people are saying they're rumors, and people are saying, oh, it's all like it's confirmed that they're working on Half-Life 3. I'm like, is it though? Like is it though? Like this is Valve. Like they might be have worked on it and like for like 2 years and then 2.5 years, 3, 5 years, and then they're like, nah, not good enough, or they just don't they don't care to like release it because it's either A, not good enough, or B, they just don't feel like it and they just don't release it. Um, I do think there is a good chance that they are going to release a new game with this hardware. I'm just not sure if it's gonna be Half-Life 3. Again, in my opinion, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a new Portal game or a new IP entirely, a new proper IP entirely. Um, Again, I'm not saying it can't be Half-Life 3. It could be Half-Life 3. Who knows? Or it could be like another spin-off game like Half-Life Alex. Um, who knows? Although I'm I don't think it's going to be a purely. I don't think their next game that they release is going to be a purely VR game. I think there is a good chance that you might be able to play it in either way. You might be able to play it in. I think there's a chance for it might be desktop and VR, so you can play it however you want. You can play it flat flat screen, or you can play it in VR. I think that I think that is a considering with like the idea of like that mixed media idea of the Steam frame, like playing games on a big screen and stuff like that in the Steam frame. I think that makes sense. Where it would make sense where you could just it's like, oh hey, say you don't want to get up, you don't want to like play VR, you can still continue playing the game, but you can play in like the flat mode still within the Steam frame, uh, within the Steam frame, but uh just in like a theater setting with like 100-inch screen, right. So in my opinion, I think there's a chance of their next game being able to be both dual and both flat traditional game and also VR game. Which, in my opinion, I think that's what you should do. Like, if your game can be easily get like reasonably made into a flat game, I think that's what it should be. I think you should strive to do a like keep VR in your mind, right? Like try to make a great flat game, and then after you're doing that, you're like, hey, I want to make a VR game. And then take that VR game and then enhance it with like VR controls and stuff like that that like makes sense, right? Like actual like tactile VR controls and stuff like that. Um, the game will do a lot better. It will do a lot better, and a lot of games that go down this road usually do better anyway. Like No Man's Sky, right? Like No Man's Sky is one of the most popular VR game. It's a very popular VR game because they added VR, because they added because they added VR because its base game is already like a great game, right? So I think focus on making a great game and then seeing if VR is a good fit to kind of enhance the immersion, right? And I think most FPS games, most first person games will fit that bill, but obviously not everyone wants to deal with like the VR stuff. But in my opinion, I think it's just a safer bet, at least right now. Maybe in 10 years we can go back to other type of development. But so okay, here's another. Sorry, that's transit. So going back to the hardware, right? And this and why I'm on why I'm okay. So this is why I believe the hardware is like going to be around probably that $600 point. I don't see it being more than too much more than that. Is because is because we have the framework laptop, not framework desktops that are coming out. Um, uh, and I'm gonna switch this over so you can see this. Hate this website design in terms of like how it's like scaling. Yeah, we're just gonna have to do it over. Okay, so this is the framework desktop. This is pretty small. Like we got a banana for scale. Like a cans banana. It's pretty small. It's maybe a little bit bigger than the Steam machine. Maybe a little bit bigger than the Steam machine, right? It's tiny. The base model for $1,100 comes with an 8-core, 16-thread CPU. None of these are thermally or super thermally like limited, really. Like in games, like you're not gonna hit a thermal limit in games based with this hardware. Get a 32 graphics. So this is probably, I'm not 100% sure, but I have to do a little bit more research, but I would assume I think this is probably about like PS5, either PS5 or PS5 Pro level GPU. I have to look into that. Again, these are very new, so I think only reviews have only tested the 40 CU graphics card, so I don't really know. I don't know exactly, but like it's gonna be at least like this is at least a PS5 in terms of performance. I would say anywhere from a PS5 to maybe a PS5 Pro in terms of performance. And this comes with 8-core 16-thread CPU, and this comes with 32 gigs of RAM. And the thing that this 32 gigs of RAM is, it is unified RAM. So just think of so you can have like, so let's say think 16 gigabytes per VRAM and 16 gigabytes per G per the CPU, the system RAM. Um, so the the great so I think this is kind of what I expected the Steam machine to be, especially when they said, oh, 4K 60 FPS with some FSR in every game on Steam. This is kind of the hardware I would have chose to basically get there, right? But given the hardware that we've seen and stuff like that, or like this to that, in my opinion, considering this is $1,100, I don't see, I just do not see Steam Machine being like more than 600 or like or extremely more than 600. I think they're trying to. I think they're going to do some subsidizing with the price a little bit. Um, so I think like the actual production cost of a hardware that I'm seeing might be about 700, maybe 750 on the Steam machine. Like 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 if they wanted to like sell it and make like a small profit, like a very small profit, like maybe like a 5% profit. Um, but I have a feeling like with like the specs and all like with the specs and all that stuff, I think I think they're trying to hit that $600 price point. Um, and I just don't see it being more than that. So I just don't see it doing too well being more than like $600, right? Because that is in that console price point territory, and I think that's what they're trying to do is go into that console price point market. So yeah. So in my opinion, I think this thing is gonna be like around that $600 mark, maybe a little bit more expensive, but I don't see it being like I just don't see this being $800. I don't or more. Maybe the 2 terabyte SSD one could probably get to 750. I think 750 for the 2 terabyte one. The base model I think is going to be 599. I think the base terabyte will be the base 512 gigabyte SSD will be 599 or less. I just don't see this being $800. Even like I don't think this is. I think max, even like at the maximum SKU with the 12 with the 2 terabyte SSD, I think the max is gonna be like 750 max. Max I think is 750. But realistically, I think they're so I would say $600. I think around $600. Hey, if it's cheaper, that's great. Like if they can somehow get by doing all this stuff and the subsidy and they're able to get the Steam machine to $500, that'd be great. But I'm gonna be realistic. I think it's gonna be 600. I think it's gonna be like 600 and maybe 700, maybe 750 at most, but for the 2 terabyte variant. Who knows? Maybe it's cheaper. We don't know. Maybe it's less than that. I don't know exactly, but I I'm just gonna say my thing is I don't think it's gonna be more than $600 for the base. That's what I'll say. I don't think it's gonna be given the specs of this, which is quite a bit better than it, and it's like $1,100. I just do not see this being more than $600 because if it is, say it's like $800 or more, I'm gonna be honest. You probably have a bet you're gonna have a better experience buying one of these and putting SteamOS on it. Like you're gonna have a better experience. Yes, you're gonna have to save up a bit more money. Yeah, like what, like $300 more. For $300 more, you're gonna get a much better experience. You're gonna get a much better experience. You're gonna get two more cores, a much better GPU. I have to double check this GPU, but I, I have to double check it, but I'm pretty sure. Like I'm fairly confident that saying that this is like a PS5 or maybe even a PS5 Pro level performance. Um, and then 16 gigs of RAM for both CPU and GPU. In my opinion, I think you're going to be a lot more safe with this. With this, especially if the Steam machine's like $800, you save up another 300, and then you just get the so so I don't think so. In my opinion, I just don't see a world where the given the specs, I just don't see it being more than like 600. Yeah. So So I'm just gonna make this smaller. So this is the VMware desktop. It is has two more cores than the Steam machine. It has four more graphics cores compared to the Steam machine. And it has 8 more gigs of total RAM. But this is this is unified RAM, so technically you could technically use 2 gigs for the OS and then the rest all for the GPU or something like that. 4 gigs for the game and then the rest for the GPU. But let's just say a 50-50 split is probably more common. So we'll just say 50-50 split. So about 16 gigabytes for the system and 16 gigabytes for the VRAM for the GPU, and that this basically is on par with current gen consoles. This is performance should be similar to a PS5, maybe even a PS5 Pro. I have to double check the performance wise, the CPU is way better than a console. It's way better than a console, but uh, the graphics cores, I'm not sure. That I'm just not sure if I have to double check that. I'm confident saying that this is at least a PS5. I'm confident saying this 100% that this is at least a PS5 in performance. I would think that this is going to be more like a PS5 Pro in performance because this is like a 32. This is like 32 cores RNA 2, they RNA 4. So in my opinion, this should be probably I'll double check this, but this should be probably around that PS maybe a little bit around that PS5 Pro level performance, at least in just like so like maybe like a 40% faster GPU than a than the thing. I would think. I don't know. But let's just say it's a PS5. Let's say this is a way better CPU, more RAM, and 32 gigs. And instead of and the Steam machine pricing, people are thinking, oh, it's gonna be like $1,000 something like that. I don't think that's true. I think it's gonna be no more than $600 because this is $1,100 for something that has two more cores, has a better GPU, and has 8 more gigs of VRAM. Like it's an extra $300 for a much better system, in my opinion. And this is kind of what I would expect. This is what I would expect for the baseline Steam machine, in my opinion. This is what I would expect. Um, yeah, for the baseline Steam machine, this is what I would expect. But I think they're trying to hit that $600 or less price point, so it's competitive to console pricing. So that's why I think they went with a six core processor, 6 core Zen 4 processor, and they went with a 28 gigabyte 28 CU GPU, and so that GPU is a little bit behind a PS5 in performance, maybe by probably what, about like 10-15% probably. It's like a little bit behind, maybe about 10 to 15%. This should be on par, maybe even a little bit better. I have to double check this. I have to double check this. I don't know, but let's just say it's on par. Let's say it's on par. Well, it's going to be at least on par because it's 32 graphics cards. The graphic see it's also uses 32. So let's just say it's on par. It should be on par. I'll double check this. Um, Look right now. 32 EU any any yeah. Which Must be 132. Computer is 60, so must be 33. Yeah, that'd be 33. That'd be 33. Navi RX 7600 XT. Okay, so yeah. Yeah. So this should be roughly PS5 Pro level performance. You can make the baseline a 2060. Let's see. Use this. Super. Use too many requests. So this is different, but this is kind of what the rough performance of the PS5 of the default PS5 is. It's roughly a 2060 Super. Uh, 76. Yeah, so it's a 37% upgrade. So yeah, so it should be about 30 to 40% faster. Like 30 to 30, 40% faster. So this should be 30 to 40% faster PS than a PS5. So it should be about on par with the GPU performance of a PS5 Pro. This is what I would have made the baseline basically for the Steam machine. This is the baseline I would have went with. The things, yeah, the thing's more than 600 bucks. Like say it's like 800 bucks starting. If the Steam machine's 800 bucks starting. I would I would just say save up and get this. I would just save up and get this. Get the base framework desktop. It's a similar, again, similar size, maybe a little bit bigger, but it's pretty similar in size. Um, and then just put SteamOS on it, and then just put SteamOS on it. And you can like upgrade this too, so this is pretty user upgradable and stuff like that. You can like buy additional storage here if you want. Oh yeah, sorry about that. I kind of forgot. Kind of forgot to include this in the price. It's not apples to apples, I guess, but that does come with a 512 SSD. I mean, hey, it's at 70 bucks. So you're comparing. So this is 100. So this is 300. This is $370 more than $370 more than to basically be comparable. So that like they don't have a 512, but they have a 500, which is close enough. That's close enough. So this is probably a five. No, this is a 512. They probably said 500 because there's how it was read. It does 12 gigabytes. It's not that big of a deal. So 69, nice. Um, and then no, bring your own. Okay, well, okay. Here is the actual price. That's just cosmetic stuff. So okay, so this is the true price. So this is yeah. So okay, let's say $5 more. So this is so it's like yeah. So it added $95. So this is 1,200 bucks, and I think this is yeah yeah. If it's, but that's why I think the Steam Machine's six. I think it's 600. That's why I think it's 600 because this is like double the price. This would be double the price, and then it's like okay, then you're distancing yourself enough. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And then you're distancing yourself, especially with the weaker hardware and stuff like that. So, so in my opinion, I think it's gonna be 600. I think it's gonna be around that 600 price point to start at least for the 512 gigabyte model, and then from there, I think it's going to be because again, if this thing's like $800 or like more, I'm gonna be honest. If it's like $800 or more, I would just recommend saving up and getting this. Yeah, it's more money, but I just think you're just gonna have a better experience. You're just gonna have you're gonna have two more cores. You're gonna have a GPU that's like probably like anywhere from probably like 50% faster. A GPU that's like 50% faster, and then like actually the amount of RAM that you would need to like run games with like high textures or maxed out textures. So, um, yeah, so that's why I think 600 is what they're aiming for. Um, I think that's it. Yeah, 600, and then yeah, because like say it's 800, this is like an extra 400 bucks. I would just recommend you get. I would again, in my opinion, I would recommend this over. Yes, I have to. We have to look at some more reviews. I'm just taking big based on like hardware. Yes, we need a bit more reviews on this and stuff like that. I'm not saying this, but I'm saying based on just hardware alone. Based on hardware alone, you just slap SteamOS and all that stuff on here, and you know what I mean. So like I think this might just be a better option. I I just hope like I don't think it's gonna be more than 600. I think so. I think 599 is. I think 599 is the goal. Maybe a little bit less, but I don't think the base model is gonna be more than 599. Yep. I think that's all I have. I probably forgot something. I probably forgot something here and there. I don't know, but there's definitely again that we're talking about information that hasn't been out fully that isn't like released. Like again, we don't have any like true benchmarks for this, right? We don't have any true benchmark. Maybe we do have. We might have. They might be starting some. I know there was some benchmarks coming on for for this model. I've seen a couple for that, and it did pretty well. It did pretty well. I think this was like a 7700. I think this performed like a 7700, so this would make sense if this performs like a 7600. That would make perfect sense considering. Um, we all can wait and see, but I'm just saying based on specs, what I'm seeing in comparison, I just don't I just don't see the Steam machine being more than 600 for the base. So 600 USD for the base model. So I think that's it. I think that's it. Yeah, I'll leave it there. And yeah,